How long have you been doing poetry?
I've been performing since I was about 12, but I've been doing my own poetry for the last 15 years, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
How has poetry changed since the time when you first started when you were 12 to now?
Well, see, when I was 12, I was doing some of the greats, James Weldon Johnson, Langston
Hmm.
Hughes. I had no interest in writing myself. But as I got older and approached my 30s, and I had always been somewhat of a revolutionary, and I began to want to write the things that I saw in
Hmm.
my community,
Okay.
the stuff I experienced. So I can't really tell you about poetry then. I can only tell you about the greats and the stuff I experienced from doing that stuff.
Okay.
But it changed a lot for me when I came actually on the poetry scene and watched all these young people and how they began to express themselves. I had
Okay.
been performing since I was a little girl, but I had to find my voice in this whole poetry piece. And after going out and seeing these young people on these poetry sets, I began to find my own voice.
Okay. Now, do you feel that it has changed or has grown? I mean, compared to hip hop, when hip hop started, it started out on a couple blocks in the Bronx, in New York, and now it's a world phenomenon. How do you
Yeah.
think poetry has changed, or is it growing like that?
It is growing. I think what's changed is that it's nothing new. It has always been here.
Mm-hmm.
But back in the day of Rituals, before Rituals was a place called Spices, and I missed the Spices era. I came into the Rituals era, and Full Moon Poetry
Mm-hmm.
era, and it was like being in church almost. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I mean, everybody always had something new, something fresh, and it was like we were trying to get a message out. You know what I mean? And so for some, it stands still today, but you got a lot of coochie poets. They trying to get dates and stuff. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That kind of stuff is going on. And then there's this camaraderie of I'm the best. You know what I
Right.
mean? And when we first started, it was just a group of poets coming together, and these young people were just phenomenal. They put their heart and their soul in it, and they were trying to change the face of their community, of
Okay.
their people. They were trying to do some things different, you know what I mean? As opposed to now, and I'm not saying this for everybody. Please don't say I'm saying it for everybody, but there's a segment of this whole poetry community is trying to get famous.
Right.
And
Exactly.
so for me, this is not about being famous, as opposed to we're trying to impact our youth, our community, our families,
Okay.
to see change happen.
So as far as education, social, economical
Yes.
issues, political.
That's what it's about for
Okay.
me. But each poet has their own mission, and that's my mission.
Okay. So are there a lot of different styles of poetry that you can do, or you have to just really experiment and find your niche? Even though you may not be a political person, or you may not be driven by trying to correct the educational system, but if you do something that makes people feel good,
That's right.
is that the purpose?
That's my purpose.
Okay.
That's my purpose. And then there are others. There's people like Triple Black. There's people, Red Storm. There's so many. Yaya himself.
Right.
There's so many of them who are trying to make a difference with their words, and not just in word only. They're in the schools. They're in the jails. You know what I mean? They're all around trying to impact people,
Okay.
trying to see change happen. And so I'm proud to be a part of that group. You know
Okay.
what I mean? 'Cause this is bigger than trying to be famous. I may not ever be famous.
Right.
But that kid over at Jensen Elementary or at Erickson or at Collins who walk up to me and say, Mom Brenda, I remember when you came to my school.
Exactly.
When you see kids now who like 25, 22, 23, they say, Mom Brenda, I remember you when you came to my school when I was in 7th grade.
Okay.
When you see young people who say, I remember what you said still from then, and
Wow.
they're grown now.
Right.
That's powerful. That's more than celebrityism or famous. That's more than that could ever do for me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
When a brother remember me down on 16th Street, that's power.
Okay. So I guess at the end of the day, when you're done with poetry, if you ever will be, if you look back on it, that's what you're going to say your purpose was.
Yes, that's it.
Okay.
That's
Now, besides being on the stage and in front of the microphone, you have also branched out and become an author as well. Somebody better say something. What was it that drove you to become an author?
I wanted to be able, I had been dying to put something out for the last few years. And so I would always come in contact with somebody who possibly could help me get this done.
Okay.
And it always fell through. And I ran into this sister who saw me perform and said, Mama Brenda, I want to publish you. And so this book has been a blessing because of the young people, you know, who love and gravitate toward this book. Anytime you get young people to read stuff like that,
Exactly, yeah.
that's powerful. So
Right.
I'm not an intellectual. I'm not what you call it, one of these, you know, really, what's the word for it? Literary
Okay, right.
geniuses.
Uh-huh.
I'm just a sister from the hood,
Okay.
trying to plant seeds of change, and this book is certainly planting seeds of change in the lives of everyday folk who may not necessarily read poetry,
Okay.
or young people who may not necessarily gravitate, but this speaks to them.
Okay. Well, Mama Brenda, thank you
Yes.
for being on Word for Word.
Thank you.
Good luck to you. All right.
Thank you.
All right.